Greetings and salutations. You are listening to the Into the North podcast, where we take a look at the competitive side of the Commander format, also known as CDH. I'm one of your hosts, Lyndon, aka Noobzors, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts, Reed, aka Sick Robot.
How you doing?
And Morgan, aka Spleenface.
What's up, everyone?
In this episode, we're going to be covering cheaters. Which has kind of been a topic that's, you know,
bit topical.
Topical topic. Unfortunately, you know, it's an unfortunate topic that we have to cover because, you know, you'd hope that this would never be something relevant in our community, but sadly, it's more relevant than ever. So we're going to talk about it. Before we get into that, what have you guys been up to since the last episode?
Well, we were sort of talking not much about this, but been watching a lot of Modern. Format's fun, dude. I mean, obviously, people are getting scammed left and right by the literal scam deck, but dude, beans. Beans are the way. Beans are the way forward. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I had no clue what Reed was talking about when he said this.
Up the Beanstalk is just it's just like the perfect kind of card for like being printed into Modern and like seeing play in Modern decks. I don't know. It's just like this sick value engine that encourages you to play with like other good cards, but it's like very interactive and like it wants you to play longer games. It's definitely what Modern needs. That like isn't just them printing better like Undyings for one mana for some reason. Like I don't why did they print the new one that gives Wicked Roll? why was that a thing?
Yeah, I guess I'll go as well. Start a new job. It's cool. Although it's new job in sales, and I was told basically it's like, it's gonna be like 6 months to a year before you're like competent at your job, and you know, lots of training and stuff. So I've started my new job, but you know, not really. So yeah, but it's,
luckily it's not
fun.
6 months to a year until they start paying you. That's the
Okay. Well, the thing is, it's I get a salary and then I get, you know, a bonus / you know, commission based bonus. So I mean, it's going to be a while until I actually start, you know, making some money there.
Get the bonus, yeah.
Till I get my full salary. But yeah.
I guess one other thing we also all did that, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, I actually remember that as soon as
we went to Kingston for a little local tournament. Got to see some of our friends from school, hang out, jam some games. That was fun.
Your friends from school, thank you very much. Some of my just like actual regular.
Well, Reed got adopted into our friend group.
To be clear, I would still say our because they're both Lyndon and my friends.
Yeah, that's
fair. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a small tournament. There were 15 people who showed up, but they're hoping to get the word out and do more of them, and hopefully it can continue to grow, because local scenes and local events are always awesome to see.
Yeah, and what's just surprising is that, you know, even for such a small tournament, you know, Morgan, Reed, friend of the show, Zach, Keegan, none of them were able to make, you know, the finals pod, but you know, it's. I can understand stiff competition.
Sometimes tiebreakers are calculated in a bit of a strange way.
in a weird one.
Look, you know, I didn't take it down, but I did walk away with 2 Orcish Bowmasters. That's fun.
Stonks.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah. Pretty good.
Yep. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
I walked away with one of the sickest play sequences I've ever made that didn't matter at all.
True. I walked away with a great understanding of a new card in one of my decks, but yeah, go and elaborate on your
just in a game that Lyndon and I were playing, I managed to like basically just force a bunch of interaction out of the table, and then I was trying to ostensibly trying to endurance a player who was winning with Thoracle, and then managed to, after getting Lyndon to crack his LED to draw with Riel, bounces whatever it's called, Teferi's Aegis Insight, kill the Tymna Crom player with their own Crom trigger, Endurance Linden, and then died anyways because he still had 1 million cards in hand. It was very sad.
Yeah, that's how Riel goes.
Yeah.
You play into it. You play. You do the best play. You do everything right, and it's just like, and I'll just draw 1 million cards anyway.
That game was rough for me. I had to stop like 2 win attempts by, I guess it was turn 3, and it was sad.
Yeah, and I didn't help either. I think I countered your. You played like an Eidolon or something.
I tried to play a Rule of Law, and you countered it. And I was like,
nah.
Fantastic. And then I still had to stop the Breach player from killing us.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess that wraps that up. So without further ado, let's jump into housekeeping. And as always in housekeeping, we like to give a shout out to new patrons. So, big shout out to Robert S. Claps all around. Okay, come on, guys.
Oh, come on. You gotta run it.
Wow. This is how we thank our patrons. Come on, guys. You can do better. We can do better.
Thanks for the support,
I'll do
Robert.
It.
There we go.
I'll do it since he wasn't. Robert, you rock.
Thank you.
Lennon doesn't want to be named in the lawsuit anymore.
No,
I guess I'll
I'm
take
trying
on
to
the
distance
mantle.
myself here. Yeah. Now that I'm starting to earn money, I actually have something to lose. So.
Can't just declare bankruptcy and be done with it.
Yeah. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much, Robert S. That brings us to new developments. Morgan, Reed, you guys...
I guess you can take this first one, Reed.
Sure. So me and Morgan decided very unceremoniously, but we did decide that we will in fact be making it out to LotusCon on the October...
It's like October 6th to 8th-ish. I feel like that number is slightly wrong, but it's in the ballpark. 7th to 8th.
7th to 8th. There we go. So we're gonna be heading out there. If anybody else is going to be in St. Louis, feel free to say hi to us. We will be there for the entire weekend. So I think that's gonna be a good time. We'll see who makes it out. I know a few people are. But I would definitely encourage if anybody's in the area to try to make it out. Unfortunately, flights are sort of ridiculously expensive from Canada specifically. But you might still be able to make some travel stuff work. Is the drive even that bad?
Depends on where you are. I think it's pretty long from anywhere on the actual East Coast. But if you're a little farther inland, I don't think it's so bad.
Yeah. So feel free to come out and say hi if you're also there.
Right on. Morgan, I guess this new developments tends to just be what tournaments are people going to?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be in Vegas. I guess it'll be right around the time this comes out, probably. Big Magic Con after party DJ'd by Elijah Wood. It's gonna be sweet.
Wait, what?
Hang out. Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, I know, right?
Lynn's suddenly very jealous that he can't go.
The hell?
Yeah. So they always put on a big show for Vegas, so it should be awesome. I know lots of other content creators are going. Pongo of Team Turn 3 fame is going to be making his return to Magic events. I think last time he went to one of those CDH meetups was in 2019. Feels so long ago. But
wow.
And then a bunch of other people. I know Ian's going to be there, Rebel, and the big old CDH crew. So it should be pretty awesome.
Yeah, sounds sweet. But on a more somber note, I feel like we should address this, although I feel like it's not breaking news for any of our listeners, or
especially not as of the time of
releasing
this episode, but it's still worth
tragically, Sheldon Menery, of the RC and kind of creator of Commander and EDH, has passed away. Yeah, and this is obviously, very sad. He's been a pillar of the community. But I think a lot of people don't realize how much of a champion of CDH he was, or maybe not a champion, but like a helpful figure in helping the CDH community interact with the RC and helping us get things done when we needed to. He was a big part of making sure the flash ban happened and convincing other RC members and so really, really, really sad news.
Yeah,
it's
sorry, go ahead.
gonna be a pretty big hole in the community, I think, and I'm not sure that one's ever gonna get filled. Honestly, there's they're not even big shoes to fill. They're just I don't know, I don't want to say a dinosaur footprints because they sort of gives off the wrong impression, but they're just some massive cavities that we just are never going to fill, and we're just gonna have to, I guess, move past. But definitely being super thankful for everything that Sheldon has done for the Magic community at large, for EDH obviously being one of the founding fathers of it, and just managing for the past almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's wild how much of an influence he's had over how long.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the Magic is only as popular as it is now, and I don't even think it's that hard to make the argument because of him, right? This format that we all know and love is the biggest in all of Magic, and it's kind of what draws a lot of people in and keeps people sticking around. And
also, having a functioning judge program helped help Magic grow pretty well too.
Yep.
Yeah, no, very, very important member, and his loss will definitely be felt by the community at large. Okay, so can move on to the main topic of the show, which again is cheating in CDH, which I guess is also not really a super great, enthusiastic, upbeat topic, but it's something that's important that needs to be discussed.
And I think we can have fun in this episode. We just have to have fun at the expense of the cheaters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, if you clicked on the episode title, or you saw the episode title and you're listening to this and you're like, okay, where's all the cheating? No, you picked the wrong episode. This is not the
we're not giving tips on.
Yeah.
Reed really wanted to, but Lyndon and I talked him down.
So I mean, we can kind of kick things off with our first bullet point here, which is
this is a hot
cheating
take.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's throw this in listener hot takes, Holy moly. Yeah, cheating sucks. Don't do it.
Yeah,
why are you doing it? This is something a lot of lots of I've seen people before cheat in games where there's literally no stakes, right? So sometimes, maybe it's not this isn't the place to do some kind of psycho armchair analysis on, cheating and what makes people cheat. But it's just worth considering that and remembering that people don't always have to be super motivated. It doesn't have to be something super obvious, very, very high stakes for people to want to cheat, or for people to try and justify it to themselves or to other people. Sometimes it can be I just want to have a high win rate, or I'm trying to impress my friends at the LGS or random street. It doesn't even things some kind of distorted perception of how what they'll get out of it, and it's just not worth it in terms of not only the damage that it's going to do to your reputation and the community at large, but the stakes, the winnings aren't really that worth.
The stakes are so low, and it's the like the main reason to do well in CH isn't even the prize pools, it's just clout. And like it's not worth cheating for clout because it just disappears as soon as you get caught, and you're probably gonna get caught.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. And just I don't understand how, like, I play this format for fun and to kind of socialize, and and that's I just feel like that you're taking away. You would be to be taking away my own fun to do something like that, which is, I guess, part of the reason why I have such a hard time understanding people's motivation for this. But, yeah.
I mean, it's like the motivation for cheating is just like never. I feel like it's just like never something that you like even really need to take into account. Like I'm not sure that it's ever particularly useful to think about the motivations behind like people cheating, because it's just like something that's going to happen, like completely, like you're completely irrespective of like if they're like the reasons why people cheat. Like you'll have people cheating because again they want to win, because they want to impress people, because they just want to feel something. They just like it's just normal for them. They don't like care about actually playing the game. They just want to like do something and be good at it, or quote unquote be good at it.
Yeah, it's like dude, you're in your own head. That you're not genuinely good, right? Like you're.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Is that like I'd say for a lot of people that are cheating, probably yes, but also like I'm not sure if you've ever run into like script kiddies on like online games, but like. They like there's like a lot of the time like no like self-reflection at all there. Like they have like no actual
just like
thoughts about
cognitive dissonance. Like, oh, I'm actually good, even though that like I'm cheating to get my.
It's not even cognitive dissonance. They just like don't view cheating as like a thing that invalidates them being good at the game for like wild reasons.
That seems pretty like cognitive dissonance to me. I don't know.
That's fair.
It is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess we kind of covered. Yeah, cheating is bad. Blah blah blah. What else? What else is there to talk about on this? How do you not get got? What are people doing? How are they cheating? I guess we can also talk about the recent kind of cheating epidemic in the community.
I think let's talk about that first, and then we can sort of get into the specifics of what people are doing, what to watch out for.
And I would even say, like, before we even get into that necessarily, I would say that like we should probably just talk about like cheating sucking, not just for like the people who are involved in the game or the tournament that like it's involved in, or even just like cheating sucking for like the person who is cheating, but like cheating sucks for the community, dude. It sucks for the format. It sucks for like Magic in general. Like it's just so not good for everybody, even tangentially involved in the community, for there to be like rampant cheating or just like a large number of cheaters continuously doing their thing, because it's just like you like everybody loses trust in everything. You just like
it compromises the integrity of events, not the organizers, but like just the integrity of the event itself. And what's especially, I mean, it's kind of obvious why there's more rampant cheating in online events, because it's easier to do so and harder to catch. What's especially kind of pernicious about that is that online events are one of the most easily accessible ways for people to get and experience tournament CDH, right?
Yeah.
Like not everyone has the luck to be in an area where there's like good CDH events or tournaments like running within a short travel, or not everyone has the luxury of being able to travel long distances or the funds to being able to travel long distances for in-person tournaments. So online tournaments are kind of all you can get for some people, and they're great usually. Very high level competition, great diversity of decks, great people, good community. And then when you have people cheating, and it's like it seems almost like every online tournament now, it's like afterwards, well, we got a cheater, well, we caught 2 cheaters this time. It's like I've seen comments of people saying I don't want to do any online tournaments anymore. Like, or I was thinking about doing an online tournament, and I don't think I'm going to do these because there's just cheaters everywhere. It's like, that's so sad. It's such a good way to grow our community, and it's just a lot of people's faith in that is disappearing, and of no fault of the tournament organizers. Like, they're doing everything they can. They're catching these cheaters, and it's just it's these people who keep deciding to cheat. It's just really sad, and I wish obviously if you're ever thinking about cheating, just don't reevaluate what you're doing and your motivations for this, and just don't ruin everyone else's experience, man. It's not a victimless crime, right? It's not just I got caught, blah blah blah, I get banned. You're not the only one who faces who is affected by this. It affects everyone in the community at large. So if you you have to genuinely have complete ignorance or just active disdain for the community to want to do something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, as someone who's participated in a lot of online tournaments, I've definitely had the impression that and I think, Reed, we've discussed this a few times. There's just too many people having particularly busted starts too often, and it sucks because I don't want to if I don't know, Mana Crypt into busted thing openers are 50% more common in webcam tournaments than they are on Cockatrice or whatever, then presumably that means somewhere around that portion of people are cheating. But I don't want, you can't assume that about your opponents, but it's always a question at the back of my mind whenever I see a crazy start. I'm like, that's suspicious, or maybe not that suspicious, but just if I know the cheating is happening, and one of the most common ways to cheat is to stack your opening hand, I have to wonder, and then
and it just makes you feel like a jerk, right? For even thinking about it, and then
you have to consider it's just always front of mind, but you don't want to have to think about that shit. I'm here to play the tournament to do well. So first of all, I don't want my brain, or I don't want my thought process to be constantly derailed for the entire game, because I'm just oh my god,
checking their shuffling,
cheating. I have to super actively watch them now, or whatever, or that kind of stuff. But also I just don't want to deal with it. Can we just play some Magic?
Yeah, and I mean, a bunch of tournaments have started implementing various anti-cheat measures, the stuff where you pile your deck and someone else picks the pile or whatever. And I was thinking maybe something where people list some number of cards that you just put from the top of the deck to the bottom or whatever. But all of that stuff is just really time consuming, especially considering often, if we're talking about shuffle cheating, tournament play relies so heavily on shortcuts. If you wait for everyone to fully resolve their search and shuffle effect every time before passing priority, then things will just take forever. But
over 50% of games go to time. It's ridiculous.
But then it's a whole thing. Someone's in the middle of your turn, and then you're trying to get someone's attention so they can pile you, or whatever. And it's just it really sucks that sort of anti-cheating measure is necessary, and then that means it's really time consuming and interrupts the flow of games. Certainly makes for bad viewer experiences for games that are commentated, and it just basically only has negative impacts.
I mean, I think you touched on some of these methods, but and a bit of how kind of TOs are trying to address them. But it might be worthwhile now to just actually kind of formally go through the kind of known methods and ways that people have been caught cheating so far in tournaments.
Yeah, and sort of, also we can sort of weave into this sort of how to protect yourself from this
mana
kind of
weaving.
Stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
Reed.
But yeah, we can also sort of, I feel like, talk about some stuff here about like how to not get got, as Lyndon was saying earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah. So probably like the biggest one and the one that we see most is literally just people stacking decks and mulligans, which sucks because it's also the time when you want to be focusing on shuffling and like getting stuff out of the way so you're not like holding up the game starting. But yeah, that's when a lot of people tend to try to get one over on the rest of the pod. So like a lot of this happens when like people, we've seen it a few times in a few different ways, like people putting things on top after like having the deck off screen for a while or for like a couple of seconds, or like adding things to their hand like immediately after the game starts. I think probably the biggest one is just doing so if people listening aren't familiar, typically like the big thing in mulligans that has been implemented relatively recently is called the Brazilian cut, where basically after you finish shuffling in an online tournament, you just cut your deck into 3 relatively equal-sized piles, and then somebody at the table just decides which order the piles go on top of each other, so you're effectively trying to replicate like a real-life deck cut on like webcam. We've seen a fair amount of people just like laying it out for a like laying out the 3 piles, asking somebody for which pile should go on top, and then just not putting that pile on top, just putting another one on top instead.
Yeah, you like people will like pick up that pile, put it on top of another pile, and then just pick up the pile they actually want and put that one on top, or like
instead. So yeah, if you're, I guess the first big thing is if you're ever asked to pick for somebody's Brazilian cut, like maybe actually just like watch them and make sure that they're putting the correct pile on top.
Yeah, another thing to kind of mention on that is you see this a lot, I think more in person tournaments, but I've seen it online as well. And it's the I trust you or like karate chop cut, where someone presents their deck for cutting and you just, give their deck a karate chop and you're like, okay, that's it. Oh, that's good. And I think, it's coming from a place of like, oh, I trust you, let's do, let's just keep things moving along. But I want to just say that that's like kind of actively a harmful thing to do.
It's so bad.
Just because it kind of puts it kind of puts this weird social pressure on everyone else, where it's like, someone else is like, no, actually, I do want you to cut your deck. Or like if someone makes someone else cut their deck, then it makes them seem kind of like an asshole, right? It's like, well, this guy's, he doesn't care. Why do you care? And it just allows people to kind of like, use social pressure to take advantage of it or things like that. Like, because, sometimes, and this is, not always the case, but sometimes it's the cheaters who are the ones who are doing those kinds of like karate chop cuts because they want to use that social pressure so that you don't cut their deck back, right? It's like, I'll karate chop you, you karate chop me, and then, I get away with cheating. So just as a rule of thumb, if someone presents their deck for a cut it, please. Yeah. And then also, if someone shuffles and they don't present it, just be like, hey, do you mind if I give your deck a quick cut? It takes no time at all, and it vastly improves the integrity of the game, and kind of it can also disincentivize people from wanting to even try to cheat, because they realize that other people in the pod are actually being vigilant and paying attention to this sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think just maintaining an error, or like maintaining a consistent sort of manner of play where you're just trying to follow basically the letter of the rule as much as possible in terms of tournament procedures is just a really good habit to get into, and it benefits everybody aside from cheaters, but they don't matter, so fuck them.
But I think that's kind of the whole point, is to not benefit cheaters.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brazilian cut in terms of webcam, I think is one of the best, tools that people have come up with. Make sure that, if someone, and the other thing is too, part of this part of wanting to, maintain the integrity of the game and the tournament is you can't get mad when someone else asks you to cut, or let's say you're like, oh, hey, did you cut your deck, or whatever. It's like, oh, I didn't see it. Do you mind just doing another cut for me? Like, it takes 2 seconds. It shouldn't matter. Like, just make sure that, or if someone did a Brazilian cut and you weren't sure that they picked up, you're like, oh, I was looking away. I was looking at my hand while you're picking up the piles. Can we just do that again, like, real quick? And then, just don't get mad when someone might ask you to do the same thing. And then, we can all help reduce cheating in the community.
Yeah, and another thing I'd say is, like, make sure you see, obviously, like, the cut is good, but also make sure you see people actually shuffle, and they shuffle, like, at least semi-properly. Because, like, we've seen some cases of people who, like, either stacked multiple, like, they stacked their Brazilian cut piles, and there's, like, a few ways you can do that. You stack 3 cards you like to the top, and then you, like, deal out piles or whatever, things like that. So make sure you see a proper shuffle where both the top and bottom cards are changing position, and then a proper cut, and that should certainly make it harder for people who, at least people who aren't, like, super well trained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would also say, sort of like, as this isn't necessarily for, like, mulligans or start of the game, but I would definitely say this is sort of building off of what Lyndon was saying, where, just don't get up in a huff if
don't
people,
get pressed.
Ask you about. Yeah, but don't get annoyed if people, like, ask you about things that you think you obviously did, but maybe they missed, or they just, like, want to confirm. I would say that extends, like, even past mulligans, just to even asking about, like, if people are asking you about missed triggers, like, oh, did you roll for crypt this turn? Like, oh, did you roll for crypt in your upkeep? Like, even if you did, and you think that you obviously did, try not to get too annoyed at that, just because, they're just making sure that they didn't miss anything, right? Or, like, and if you did miss a crypt roll, hopefully you would like to know that you missed the crypt roll and that you would, like, want to be playing the game correctly. And if not, then you should still be getting your crypt rolls every turn. Yeah. And that kind of stuff. Like, did you take your damage from Mana Vault this turn? And I think people should be much more willing to be on the other end of that as well. I think not enough people tend to ask about that thing. They just, like, sort of assume that their opponents did, even if they didn't, like, don't necessarily remember it happening. I personally have a really bad memory for this stuff, or I tend to, like, I'll, like, tune out when somebody's going through, like, upkeep, just, like, the upkeep triggers that they've had to do every turn.
You're thinking about your own plays down the line.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
4-player, lots of things going on. Board analysis, it's very easy to miss, yeah.
You should very much be in a place where you're both very okay with asking about that, just to confirm for your own sanity and make sure that the game's being played above board and that everything's going well. Like, everything should be very clear in a game of EDH. Nothing should be ambiguous, and you should be okay with asking questions to get rid of any ambiguity. And you should also be fully okay with having those questions asked of you. Obviously, if somebody's pestering you, like, and being annoying about it, like, consistently, and just being like just prodding you on the crypt triggers, even if they obviously saw it happen or stuff. Like, yeah, you can get annoyed at that, but that's a point at which, like, you call a judge instead of, like, yelling at the person across the table from you. But yeah, just, like, be okay with people just wanting to clarify the game state, clarify what happened, clarify what hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I think that's also a good, like, you should approach when you're asking people and when you're being asked. Just, like, assume it's about the asker, not the askee. If someone says, like, hey, did you roll for crypt? They're not saying, like, I don't think you rolled for crypt. They're saying, like, I didn't notice that you rolled for crypt. Can you just confirm that it, Yeah. And then it doesn't have to be, like, an accusation. It's just like, oh, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing things,
Yep. Yep.
And a cheater's worst or biggest enemy is someone and multiple people who are paying attention, like a spotlight.
Yeah.
Or people who are auditing the board in game state, like, really tracking
like,
everything.
Specifically, like, talking through things and being, like, very clear about what's happening. I will always say, like, one of the best games of CDH I ever played was at Punt City 1, where I was playing in a pod where every single player in the pod was committed to confirming the order of the stack when things went on the stack, confirming life totals every time life totals changed. We all had independent counts, and every time a life total changed, we would all cross-check and confirm with each other to confirm life totals. We would be like very explicitly passing priority between each other so that there's no ambiguity. It's like, okay, you have priority, great. You have priority, great. You have priority, I have a response. Okay, this is priority now. This is what the stack looks like. We'll keep playing. And it was both, the pace of play was fantastic because like everybody was staying on top of all this stuff, and there was no ambiguity for any of the board states or anything that was happening. It was all very clear, and everybody had a very good idea of what was going on. And those types of games are, again, a nightmare for cheaters because everything is laid out super like carefully. Everything is very obvious. People are like engaged in asking questions and making sure that everything is correct. It's just, if you maintain like a lot of like open information game states like that, it's just so much harder for people to abuse it.
Yeah, so we talked about shuffle cheats, and one thing you can do to kind of make it a bit better, or make yourself a bit better at catching other people cheating, is to kind of know how it's done, or how people do these shuffles. And okay, I'm not saying go look up how to cheat or whatever, but you know, I don't know how many of you went through like a middle school magic phase, but I did.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, learning how to do like these kind of like top card manipulations, or you know, like just you can watch some like 5-minute YouTube tutorial, and you can see what they do, and then it allows you to kind of track what's going on camera. You can be like making sure that you're seeing that top card move, right? Boom. And is it going, or are they, you know, actively, you know, mixing their cards properly, or are they just moving the top card to the bottom and the bottom card to the top? Like, you can kind of catch these things. And the Brazilian cut, what I really like about it is that one's, you know, if you watch them do a kind of a shuffle, and you know, it looks, you know, at least somewhat proper, doesn't mean it's impossible to. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever watched like Penn and Teller's Fool Us, but
Oh yeah,
man,
great
there's
show,
people are
also
very
fantastic
good
for-
at
Yeah.
like I can't. I remember the like Shin Lim or something like I could not follow what the hell is going on. Like, you know, some people are incredibly gifted at that, but you know, there's times where it's like, yeah, you see them shuffle, looks pretty legit, above board, and you place the cards, you do a cut, like that can be a lot harder to manipulate then. So yeah, kind of do a bit of research, know what to look out for, follow proper procedure, make sure people declare when they lay out their piles in the Brazilian for the Brazilian cut, have them, like what I do is I'll lay them out, and I'll put on my left hand I'll have a 1, on my right hand I'll have a 3, and I'll put them in front of each of the piles, right? So that people know which ones are which. Then it's like someone says, okay, 1 on top or whatever. Also, if make sure when you're saying, you know, 1 2 3 2 3 1 blah blah blah, or you know, 3 on, like say what's most important is not the order of the middle and the bottom. It's which pile goes on top, right?
Yeah.
And be very clear about that. Be clear about indicating which pile is which. Make sure your opponents are clear about indicating which pile is which, and make sure that you say, you know, very clearly, this one on top, right? Or, you know, top to bottom, 2 3 1, something like that. And then watch them actually stack it in that order. Yeah. And you could also just throw in something like that after, you know, like, hey, do that, and then also, like, you know, throw the top 3 cards into the middle of your deck. Like you can even add some small stuff like that as well. Okay, some other cheats to watch out for. One of them is extra draws. And so as we're talking, and we're kind of talking about, I'm mentioning ways that, like, you know, things to have your opponents do so you can ensure that they're not cheating. Incorporate this into your own habits as well, right? So that you can give others the peace of mind that you're not cheating and that you're doing everything above board. Because you don't want them to have to ask, right? To have to ask you to, like, do things in a particular way. If you're just doing everything right from the jump, then it's things just go a lot smoother. So with extra draws, I don't think there's a standard procedure in online tournaments right now, unless they've changed something recently. But what I like to do is, and I do this in paper as well, is especially because I've got black sleeves, which can be hard to differentiate.
Yep.
Set my hand down, pull off the top, and like deal them out. Like, so you can hear each individual card hitting the table. So like go, okay, I'm drawing Sylvan Library. I'll draw my first card, set that down, draw my next two. 1, 2, pick up those, okay, decide what I'm going to do, then put them into my hand. Or, if I'm doing something with Riel, draw 2, okay, 1, 2 off of Bazaar, open up my hand, look at it, discard 3, 1, 2, 3, and then, do the same thing, set my hand down, pick up 3 cards off the top, count them out, and then put them in my hand.
Yep. If anybody has ever watched me play, the way that I draw cards, just in generally, is you take the top card off, I will, put it down on the board. I might still be holding it, but the card that I am drawing will go down onto the board before it gets picked up, so that I can do, mental double-checking to see if I accidentally picked up 2 cards, or, if I'm not supposed to be drawing yet, or if we need to clarify anything, just so there's, a chance there. And that's, that is now just a habit of mine. It's not something that I even notice myself doing. It's just the motion of drawing a card is taking a card off the top, putting it face down on the board, and then putting it into my hand. And I would encourage people to build that kind of habit as well.
Another best practices thing here is that when you have your hand, you should be trying to keep your hand on screen at all times, because people will sometimes take their hands off screen, as we mentioned, and add cards or swap a card or do something like that. So try and keep it on screen all the time. So when you're not picking it up, looking at it, even when you're looking at it, try and keep it on camera, but just not visible, or have the faces be visible. And then when you're done, set it on the table, and then you can take your hands off. One thing that I think is pretty good for best practices is either spreading your hand a bit so that people can see the total amount of cards, count them themselves, or I've seen people throw a die, a die just on their hand to show how many cards they have in hand, because then it makes it easier for people to have confidence that you're not drawing extra cards, because it's I remember last turn you had a 5 on your die, but this turn you have 9 cards in hand, and I can kind of come back, okay, well, you drew 1 for turn, you cast this spell, you drew 3 cards, and then you're well, that doesn't quite math out. And then you can be oh no, you forgot this, or people can at least try and verify these things when something the amount of cards you have in hand is constantly being tracked.
Yeah, and even if people aren't going to do that, I often do that at the start of games, and then when stuff starts really happening, I'm I start picking up my hand to do things much more often, I'm it gets forgotten. It's not a deliberate choice that I'm not going to do this anymore, but it's more just I'm holding my hand so often once we move out of the early phases of the game. But just make a habit, ask people how many cards they have in hand. If it ever seems strange, just ask for a quick recap of what happened over the last couple turns. Oh, you had 4 cards last turn, but now you have 7, and it's oh yeah, I drew 1 for turn, and then whatever for Timna, for this, for that. Just get that all confirmed, and just getting in the habit will make it easier for you to sort of catch discrepancies and just confirm whenever something's unexpected. You can just confirm okay, this is fine, everything's above board, I just forgot about XYZ.
Yep. And I think aside from extra draws, I did want to talk about specifically talking about cards off camera, which is sort of related to extra draws in some ways, but is really more about just tracking hands and where they are. It can be hard to catch. Obviously, the covering extra draws, a lot of the habits that help with catching other people drawing extra cards can help with catching people putting cards in their hand from off camera. But also, Sometimes this can be caught with a open deck list if there's an open deck list tournament. Sometimes cheaters tend to be not even good at cheating, and you can catch them putting cards in their hand that weren't necessarily in a registered deck list. So, you should always, that's also a reminder to just, like, keep your eyes out for the stupid stuff, too. Like, stuff that you don't think people would be dumb enough to try in a tournament. Some people are definitely dumb enough to try it in a tournament, and you should be aware of that and maybe be prepared to catch that kind of stuff.
Like
Best way to catch this is for everyone to slide telepathy into their decks.
Honestly, yeah, that's the real.
It's actually
just play telepathy.
It's not telepathy. It's Zer's weirding. It's Zer's weirding. It's always Zer's weirding.
Yeah. Shout out to the person who played 2 different forests over the course of a tournament in a deck with only 1 forest in it. Good times. Good times.
Yep. It was a great one.
Yeah, and then I guess the last sort of cheating type is just mana shenanigans. This one, it's really hard to tell what's, like, drawing extra cards unless it's like,
yeah.
Sometimes I've seen people where it's like, oh, draw for turn, oh wait, I want to do stuff in your upkeep, oh, stuff happens, whatever, and like they already drew the card, and then it's like, okay, now we're done on my upkeep, draw another card. It happens occasionally, but generally if people are consistently putting extra cards in their hand, they're cheating. But people are just really sloppy about mana a lot of the time.
Oh my god, are people sloppy about tapping mana? Holy
It's not
moly.
it's not hugely terrible in terms of amount of mana, though again, just watch out for that. I've definitely seen some like stuff that where I've had some questions or like people, miscount, particularly with like sources that make a lot of mana, like a Cradle or whatever. And or variable amounts of mana. But colors is a big one. And I'm convinced that that's accidental most of the time it happens, but still, just like people who are cheating will like try and take advantage of that and like, oh, I'll just tap, this Cradle and 1 other land and I'll cast this this spell with like 2 non-green pips, and if I get away with it, then I get to hold up, better colors of mana or not waste mana because I, over-tapped with this Cradle or yada yada. So just pay attention, make sure your opponents are paying the right mana, and if you're ever concerned or confused, just ask for like a quick recap. Don't try not to do it all the time because obviously it does start to stall things out. But like
and
once or twice a
start
game,
grading. But
sorry, Reed, you were saying?
Oh, I was just saying, and it can start grading as well. It's not just necessarily like delaying. It can also, that can get on people's nerves. You're constantly asking for mana recounts or whatever. But yeah,
like do your best to pay attention. But if you're ever a little lost, you can ask for clarification.
The big one for there as well for me, like my specific habit for mana counting is that just like a lot of the time, if people are casting something with like particularly multiple colored pips, and a lot of the time like something like high impact, like a Naz or just like Peer into the Abyss, just something with like multiple colored pips. If the table is thinking, or somebody at the table is thinking about interacting or whatever, or the spell's just hanging out on the stack for a bit, I will just take a look at the person's mana base / just think about what they used to cast it, and just like the obvious tells a lot of the time are like, just take a quick look at their dual lands, see what colors the dual lands make. If it's like not enough, then you can be like, oh, okay, well, let's just make sure that they can actually make all the mana required to cast this spell. Oh, like the mana doesn't make it. Did they have floating mana? Maybe, I don't know. Okay, like let me check after that. It's just like, it's just one of those things of like just using dead time in the game to make sure that you're not getting got and that nobody's like making horrendous mistakes that's gonna like alter the future of the game and that kind of stuff, right? Just like, just using extra time at your disposal to just cross-check and double-check these things.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good comprehensive view or kind of covering of this topic. Covered ways people cheat, ways to kind of avoid it, impact on the community, just a intro of just shitting on cheaters.
Fully deserved.
But I kind of want to wrap this topic up by discussing
Well, hang on a second. Before we do
webcam.
that, there is one more really important thing you can do to not get got by cheaters.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, in webcam tournaments, record your games. It's really easy to watch people while they shuffle, because not everyone's shuffling all the time. So, I mean, a bunch of the shuffle cheaters have been caught by recorded games, but like that one you can generally just pay attention, but you can't pay attention to a game of Magic and also what three people are doing with their hands and cards all at the same time all the time. So if you're recording, then you have a chance to go back if something suspicious happens, you know, like, oh wow, that person had a crazy series of top decks. You can go and be like, well, isn't that interesting? During that crazy series of top decks, their hand kept moving off camera. Or, like, you can confirm, oh, they fanned out their hand and there were 3 cards in it. And then they drew for turn and then played a land and then there were 4 cards in their hand. Like, isn't that interesting? All of this stuff, you know, it's not really practical to keep a close eye on everyone in real time. People will take advantage of stuff happening on other people's boards and be like, oh, this is a good time for me to pull my hand off camera and make a quick card swap or whatever. So if you record your games, you have the chance to sort of go back and audit. And also, when TOs get like tips or suspicions of cheaters, you know, one of the first things they do is they go and find people who played with them. And if you have recordings to provide, that can really help in these investigations.
Yeah, especially because you don't always have 3 people, you know, looking or watching a person shuffle. Right, so you're like, oh, I think you did your shuffle wrong there, or, you know, I'm a bit suspicious. It might have just been you who was paying attention. So you have no one to kind of corroborate your story there, and then it becomes one person says one thing, the other person says another thing. So having some actual hard evidence there, or something you can go back to as like an official record, is incredibly useful. Because, you know, maybe you were wrong. Maybe you did catch something you thought you saw something you didn't, and then you can kind of exonerate them. Or maybe they're just going to kind of deny it all the way to the end, which is something that's kind of the most common behavior we see with cheaters, is that even when they're caught with like irrefutable evidence, they double down. It makes no sense, but we see it time and time again. So yeah, it's recording, very, very useful tool. So yeah, good catch, Morgan. But yeah, so the final topic I was trying to lead us into is webcam going forward, because it kind of is mostly in webcam that we're seeing this. And I mean, I think there have been cheaters caught in paper tournaments, but it tends to be a bit easier because, you know, you actually get to shuffle their decks if you want, and there's like judges there that you can call, and it's like they can look over it's a lot easier to catch cheaters in paper.
You also just you can see them out of the peripheral of your vision, like when you're playing, versus like online where you're just like staring at one person's board or whatever, and you don't get a full view of their like torso either, right?
Yeah,
you just get their hands.
So, webcam going forward, how do we as a community address this rampant cheating issue and try and curb it, or do we change policies? What do we do?
We could just play on Trice instead.
No, shut your mouth.
It's so
I would rather die.
So much better than webcam in like every way.
I have paper cards.
Exactly,
I'm gonna play with them. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, okay, how do we?
It's rough. Like, I think obviously, you know, TOs implementing better expectations is a good start. I think recording is a good start. And by the way, if you're like, how do I record my games? OBS is free software. You can set it to record either a window or your screen. And even if you're using it for your camera, it'll get mad at you if you open a second instance, but it will still let you do it and it will work just fine. So that just works. But I think it's a little, I kind of hate to say this, the cheaters who have been caught have ranged sort of from brazen to flagrant.
Yeah.
Which implies that anyone who's cheating moderately more proficiently is getting away with it, right? Like, unfortunately, the people who are being caught are not being caught doing like really subtle, sneaky stuff. And admittedly, that's because like a lot of people aren't, specifically trained in sleight of hand or whatever. But like, there are lots of people who have just, practiced a few card tricks to impress their friends or whatever. And anyone with like even moderate sleight of hand skills, as far as I can tell, hasn't been caught yet. So, what that implies isn't super encouraging for me, I would say.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I agree. I think we can probably try and address this by making like a more... doing something like this episode and having content creators really kind of blast out this message about cheating and how to get it, how to catch it and all this stuff. Just educating people, making them more aware. Maybe for online tournaments, the TOs collaborate with content creators or create the stuff themselves of like a mini video that like people have to watch before they do it. Like, a 5-10 minute video. Here's things, you need to watch out for from your opponents. Here's how to download and use OBS. Here's proper procedures that, if we make the Brazilian cut official, do other things officially as well. Like, no cards off screen at all.
That's currently a policy. It's just really hard to...
Like, really...
tough to enforce it.
Really have... Like, I think there is this kind of, like... Oh, your cards went off screen for a second, or your screen died for a second. Like, it's fine. Like, really reinforcing to people, like, call a judge. Calling a judge does not mean you're accusing someone of cheating, right? Like, it just means that you're trying to maintain the integrity and, like, follow tournament protocols. Like, have really reinforce that in people. Do the card counting for like card draws, like standardize that. Like just try and make things standard and have people follow and just really try and get people to follow the procedures and get them on board with this.
Okay, hear me out. Tournament organizers should start requiring like a Scrabble stand.
For hands?
Yeah, like your hand's just in a Scrabble stand.
Yeah. I think if it was actually, like, if you could get your hands on a Scrabble stand...
3D printed, bro. Come on.
As I said, if you could get your hands on a Scrabble stand consistently as, like, somebody who is probably using, potentially using a 5-year-old phone on a stack of books... or a large cardboard box as your play space, right? Like, I think I'm
buying
that
3 3D printers. We're gonna start production on these like tomorrow, and we're gonna get them in every LGS across North America.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree that like there's a lot of policy stuff. I think there's there could be like I hate using like the phrase like a tech solution to something because I don't know. At least me and Morgan know. I'm assuming like Lyndon has the same thing as well. But like tech solutions are never actually solutions. They're just being sold as solutions by con men who don't understand technology to be used correctly. But but there is like a technical there could be like a technical assist here. I think, which would unfortunately require like a bit of like a fair amount of funding / hours sunk into it for dev work and such. But I think I could foresee a future where like a tournament series or a tournament organizer has access to a tool that like would spectate a spell table from beginning until end and basically just like record the entire thing and dump it onto like some like AWS like S3 bucket or like some storage instance somewhere on the cloud that you could like then pull down after the tournament. It would be a lot of storage costs, unfortunately. I think like you would have to spend a fair amount of time like actually making said bot or said program work correctly, but I could foresee a future where that's the case, where like just every game ever played in a tournament is fully recorded and accessible by the tournament.
Yeah, but I don't think, I think that's like only a very small piece, because
well that's what I'm saying.
Because
like,
you don't
it's
have
sort of
it needs to be done in conjunction with people being more aware of cheating techniques and actually
which is why I wasn't calling this a tech solution. It's like a technical assist where it's just like you have this in concert with people, making it more comfortable for all the tournament attendees to like self-enforce policy and like make sure that like they're comfortable with what's happening in a game and all that kind of stuff. With like
maybe
kind of
also
education.
have like you could do it so that people are required to submit their opening hands.
Or that
through a
as well,
picture of something,
like,
because one, you can then have everyone after the game, like their opening hands get revealed, and so it's like, okay, you can verify that these are cards that are, it's like, oh, I saw him play all these cards, okay, this makes sense. But then you can also have it like, if you have those cards, I mean, you can just use like OCR or something, or if you can, I mean, maybe that might not be good enough, but like get these logged, and then maybe you can actually do some kind of like deeper statistical analysis on this and have like create player profiles across tournaments and be like, wow, they're opening these cards at like not, it'd be like it almost like casino-esque software for like blackjack and card counting and things like that, right? It's like, well, we can't use this as definitive proof that someone is card counting, but we can certainly use this as you're saying if we're recording all of these games, use this as kind of like a maybe we should take a look at some of these person's games, just take a closer look instead of having someone, because it'd just be impractical to go through every single game or something. But yeah, those are tech solutions that would require dev work and money and
I don't think these are the primary solutions. I think if you're a TO and if you're a TO who's TOing a bunch of like webcam events, or like isn't even TOing a bunch of webcam event, you're just like looking to run a webcam event or whatever, I think the true solution right now is just to educate your players, make sure that you're making it clear in the pre-tournament meeting, like the player meetings, that this is what's expected, this is what the like sort of the culture inside of a game in this tournament should look like. Here's like, you shouldn't be afraid to ask for XX and X, you shouldn't be annoyed if somebody else in the game asks you for XX and X. Just make it like it should be a culture of everybody trying to stay not got by cheaters, basically.
It'd be great if TOs would just refer all or maybe make this episode just mandatory listening, just who can really but maybe like a series of videos or something that actually be really helpful. Okay, anyone have anything else to say on cheating?
You can use a keyboard as a card stand.
There you go.
Okay. So that brings us to everyone's favorite segment, Gut Check.
Gut check.
Gut check.
Woo. Okay. So this seems kind of premature, but this is kind of just what I wanted to ask. Gut check. What is your favorite set that's come out this year so far?
You assume that I know what sets came out this year. Because it's getting harder every year. All right, let's see. 2023.
Were all of the Phyrexian sets this year, or was one of them last year?
I think one of them was the fall set last year. Yeah.
Brothers War was fall?
Well, actually no, I guess it was it DMU, and then
Yeah.
And then it
DMU,
was
Brothers
and then
War.
Mom.
DMR 1 was this
No,
year.
it's Phyrexia will be one, then Mom. Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, then I
so
guess
one and Mom were both this year.
Brothers War was last year? Question mark.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
It says,
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. So then what we've got is All Be One, March of the Machine, Wilds of Eldraine, Lord of the Rings, I guess a reprint set or a couple reprint sets.
Commander Masters counts because there are new cards in that one.
Oh, true.
Barely.
Yeah, but there were.
Okay, so what's everyone's favorite set? I've got mine.
Yeah, I think I got mine.
Yeah, I got mine.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Yep.
Mine is Lord of the Rings, and this is with some caveats, which is obviously I think One Ring itself is toxic. I think Orcish Bowmasters is toxic. I'm generally not a fan of Universes Beyond, but it was really fun.
It did it for you? Yeah, it executed.
I thought, as far as Universes Beyond go, they executed quite well. The flavor was pretty cool. But I was just having so much fun jamming the commander set for that with friends. Like we'd play just like Sauron versus elves versus the hobbits, and it was a load of fun. Like really, they've gotten to the point where I guess all of these sets also factor in their commander sets because they're all bundled in with sets these days.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But they have gotten so good at like balancing precons and packing precons with like actual answers and board wipes and things like that. Just really well designed precons. Yeah, I had a blast. Also, that's one of the few pre-releases I did, and it was a lot of fun. Okay.
Cool. I personally was actually a pretty huge fan of All Will Be One. I think that set was really good. It was it had like really cohesive identity and like a good set of mechanics. I think the limited environment was pretty nice. Obviously a bit aggressive, like a bit on the aggressive side, but I think that's fine. And I think that there were a decent amount of like interesting strategies going on there with some not high rolls. Obviously, like the Menery Broad Priest deck was sick nasty and like way too good, and plus the Sun Slayer was probably too good of a card to have in limited, but and then I think they were just like, it was great limited environment, good like thematic set in general, like a lot of like great, like everything in like every creature in the set being a Phyrexian is awesome to me. I love that they like went full commit to that, right? Like I feel like we haven't seen a whole lot of that in recent years. The individual cards, like both for Commander and for other Eternal formats, I think were very compelling. Stuff like the Mycosynth Garden is an awesome design in my opinion. I like Mom. I like the Dominuses. I think the Dominuses are all like sick designs. And there's just like a bunch of like really compelling stuff at specifically, I think, a lot of like low CMCs and lower rarity card slots that aren't necessarily broken in any of the formats that they saw play in, but again, were compelling designs, still see play now. I think I'm just a pretty big fan of that set specifically.
So interestingly, I was like looking at cards that were printed this year, thinking I was gonna say All Will Be One. And then, like, as I just scrolled through the cards, I was like, damn, Mom had some cool stuff going on. I think that the legendary pair-ups was, like, a really cool thing. And, like, they did a really good job of having callbacks to all of these cards that we've seen over the last, little while.
Finished Omnath? Yo, that was sweet.
It was a bit disappointing, but it is sweet. I was actually more entertained about the Yargle and Multani printing.
Yeah. I think that the third round of Praetors is one that I enjoy a lot more on average than the second round.
Blasphemy.
Because Shieldred can go die. And the battles were cool. It had Hoarding Broodlord. There's just like kind of a lot of cool stuff going on. We got another Rule of Law creature.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. And like I just there were just a whole bunch of really interesting cards that opened up some design spaces, some really strong stuff, Invasion of Ikoria, Fairy Mastermind, and just a lot of stuff I really enjoyed.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of zoom out a bit too on just on Magic sets, sort of not even recently, but like I thought when they announced that they were going to do like 3 Phyrexian, like a block of 3 sets of Phyrexian cards, I was like, no way. This is like, they've already done this. Like, how are they going to keep this interesting 3 times in a row? Like, we're going to get 3 artifact themed sets in that's insane. Like, last time that broke everything, and it's going to be really samey, limited wise, and design. But honestly, I thought each of them were super cool, but still very thematic, right? I was going to say, zooming out, like for a long time, we were just doing the kind of one-off sets. Like blocks were kind of like gone. And then we did a return to blocks with Innistrad, right? Which, frankly, I was kind of disappointed, and I thought, I mean, we've been to Innistrad a couple times now, and it's they've done a lot of they've squeezed a lot out of what they can.
I my opinion has sort of been that I think they're I think they have tied some of the Innistrad stuff probably, like they've done it a bit too often, which is wild to say because it's been like however many years since the last Innistrad set, but they I think they were definitely retreading a fair bit of ground
and
there.
I was just very thoroughly impressed with that, because before Innistrad, just without looking it up, what was the last time we had a block of 3? Do you remember?
It depends on if you are we counting War of the Spark?
Yes.
As part of the okay. Well, then it was that.
Yeah.
So it's
Which while ago. It's been a while.
2019.
Yeah.
4 years, something like that.
Well, but wasn't Innistrad in 2021?
Wait, was it 2019 or was it 2018?
I think War of the Spark was I think what was
Guilds, and then
or Guilds was 2018, and then
Yeah.
Legion and War were 2019, I believe.
Okay, well then so then I'd count. Well, okay, I was not just doing I mean, that was the last time we had I said block of 3. So since we had a block of, I mean, if you count War as 2019, then March is 23, so like 4 years. That's quite a while. What was that actually? Do you know what it was before the War block? Just looking now.
Cons.
That
was a while.
for a 3 block set.
Wow.
Yeah. Multi-block set. Last one was what would have been?
Well, they started doing 2 set blocks for a while.
Yeah, we had double Ixalan. We had our
Ixalan,
Amonkhet.
Yeah. So the last one would have been Ixalan then, before Guilds.
Yep.
Yes. But yeah.
But like they were doing doubles pretty much from the time they finished cons to
and honestly, looking back at some of these blocks, it's like I think I know some people were I've talked about this kind of like the limited format with because I played a fair bit of Brothers War Limited. I very much enjoyed it, and I normally am not a huge fan of limited, so I was like, I feel like people are gonna look back on this block like very nostalgically, and so it's gonna be interesting to see where we kind of in a couple years look back on it and compare it to everything else. But I'm very pleased, and what's really surprising to me is, given we joke about this, but it's a very serious problem of just fatigue in Magic. But I really feel like the design team has just been hitting homers like a lot recently. Very flavorful stuff, like well-designed cards, fairly like decently balanced. You get things like the Ring, you get things like Bowmaster, you get things like Shieldred. So you still get your misses and whatever, but overall, I think things have been, it's very impressive that they're able to maintain this kind of quality, given just the insane volume of product that they're pumping out. So
I'll take your word on it because I'm completely fatigued.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even really trying to keep up with like new stuff anymore.
Okay, yes. I mean, that was a gut check that kind of got into a bit of a discussion on the block overall, but that's interesting. Interesting. Cool. So that's gut check. I think we're gonna skip our listener questions this week, and we'll touch on them next episode. We got a couple in the pipeline, but if you guys would like to get in some before the next episode, you can pop into our Discord, and we've got a channel specifically for that. So,
and what's the benefit that goes along with that one?
I mean, if you're
You gotta push the pipipeline, man. Come on, this is your
but
job,
if you're
man.
a patron, that you get. You get priority. Yeah.
There you go.
Is that not mentioned in the outro that I was about to go into?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
You can get it in
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
You get the show
become
in
a
now.
patron, get priority listener questions, priority, gut checks, topic suggestions, all of that. It is very much appreciated. But yeah, that wraps it up for this episode. If you guys would like to contact us, if you would like to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact us on Twitter at Into the North Pod, via our email, intonorthpodcast@gmail.com, or on our Discord server, the invite link for which can be found in the description for this episode. Extra special thanks to all of our patrons who help cover the expenses for our show and allow us to work towards improving the quality of the podcast. If you too would like to become a patron, we are at patreon.com/intonorthpodcast. Thank you, as always, to the band Vox Cadre for our lovely podcast music, and to Nate Slover for our equally lovely podcast logo. Next episode will be out in 2 weeks. Until then, see ya.